Welcome back to my channel, Lunatia Books. My name is Elin and I mostly talk about books and book-related stuff. Today I am going to talk about August, what I read, and also how I really failed the All the World's a Page readathon. I had planned on making a TBR for August to take part in the readathon. I had seen Olivia Savannah's video about the readathon that I will link down below. And because I thought it was fun, I was thinking, oh, I'm going to do this. And I was planning on making a TBR video, but that didn't happen. Then August came around and I actually started making a reading vlog, but yeah, somehow that didn't really happen either. So here I am with no reading vlog, and what can I say? I must admit that I kind of failed. I started out kind of well. I read a couple of books, or actually I have 3 books that I'm counting towards the readathon. At some point I didn't get around to read as much as I had hoped, and a lot of my reading was focused around work. Not a lot, but after my summer holidays were over, I had to kind of read for work. So that also affected the readathon. So when it was like mid-August and I was kind of struggling with the reading, and that's just how things went. That being said, I did read, as I said, 3 books for the readathon, and I will actually go through them and talk about their prompts for the readathon and how I cover the prompts in these books. The first book that I read was Instructions for Dancing by Nicola Yoon. I must admit that this book quite didn't do it for me. So the prompts that this book ticked off were a few. I was very unsure about the book when I picked it up, so it ticked off The Fool with All the Wisdom, take a chance on a book you're unsure about. I had read the description for this, so I thought maybe it wasn't for me because of the romance, but I thought I would give it a chance since I thought there would be magic in it. And there kind of was, but not enough for me to think it crossed off the prompt for the magic element in the book, because it wasn't like proper magic, in my opinion. It also ticked off underrated female character outshines the main character, and that was read a book by a BIPOC female author. If you don't know, BIPOC stands for Black, Indigenous, Person of Color, so that means that the author should be a female author who is either Black, Indigenous, or a person of color, and the author of this is a female Black author. Next prompt, fake your own death, because that will definitely solve the problem. Give a book or author a second chance at life. A book you've DNF'd, a second chance author, etc. I have read another book by the author previously and I wasn't super thrilled about it, but I thought maybe that this book would be different. I don't know. Well, I wanted to give the author a second chance, but I must admit it didn't quite do it for me, and that's okay. It's a problem play, so your punishment is marriage. Read a book with a romance element in it, and this definitely had romance in it. The last prompt for this book is definitely not set in England, I promise. Read a book set in a country you don't live in. And this is really easy for me. I read a lot of books which are set in a country that I don't live in, basically because I read a lot of books originally written in English, and most books originally written in English are not set in Norway, and this book was set in the US, and I don't live in the US. I've been there once, but that's it. This book, as I said, is a romance. It's young adult romance, and I have actually found out that young adult romance isn't quite my cup of tea. I have previously read a few young adult romance books, and they never really speak to me unless they have something more than the romance element. Even like very mundane things, I need something more like racism or classism or feminism or whatever, just to kind of have more. There needs to be more. The second book was a book that I read on my Kobo, which was The Jasmine Throne by Tessa Shuri. I have read one book by her previously that I actually quite enjoyed. It wasn't like the best book I've ever read, and I'm glad I actually gave this book a chance. Well, I planned on reading it when I found out it was coming out, and after reading about it, I knew that the chances for me liking this much more were quite great. And I wasn't disappointed. It was a really good read, in my opinion. I like the whole Indian setting, so that's a good thing. I did start reading this for the Indian Lit Readathon, as I said in my video for that, the reading vlog, but I didn't finish it. So I thought this would be a really good opportunity for me to continue with this book for this readathon. So the prompts for this book is The Inevitable Cross-Dressing, read a queer book, and this book has sapphic love in it, so it is counted as a queer book. Villain monologue, read a book focusing on a villain, antagonist, or anti-hero, or one you think will have a dramatic character arc, positive or negative. And I think this absolutely have some anti-heroes or villains as their main voice. I'll come back to that kind of later. Band of Brothers, read a book with multiple points of view or an ensemble cast. And this is where I kind of look back at the villain monologue, because these books absolutely have multiple points of view. You can see that some of them are absolutely, I would call them villains in a way. Absolutely. That kind of made it really interesting. That's one of the things I really liked about this book. None of the characters are just good or just bad. Not at least in the way I saw them. I like it when you see more than one point of view. The next prompt is underrated female character outshines the main character. Read a book by a BIPOC female author, and this author is definitely a person of color. It's a problem play, so your punishment is marriage. Read a book with a romance element in it, and I would say it's not a huge element, but it's absolutely there. Definitely not set in England, I promise. Read a book set in a country you do not live. This is actually, it's kind of a fantasy world. So of course I don't live in it, but it's also based on medieval India as far as I have understood. So that's also not a country I live in. And then, surprise, magic actually exists for plot convenience. Read a book with magic in it. And there are magic in this, absolutely. It's a fantasy book with magic. So all in all, great read. Beneath the Sugar Sky by Shannon Maguire was my final read for the readathon. I really enjoyed this. I am not going to say much about it since it is the third book in a series and I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm not going to mention anything other than that I really liked it and I will continue this series, and the prompts for this I will go into now. The prompts for this book is definitely not set in England, I promise. Read a book set in a country you don't live in. This is a portal fantasy. It's actually set partly in the US, where I absolutely do not live, and it's also set in some other worlds that are not Earth, so basically also not a country I live in. The second and actually last prompt for this book is, does this play need 3 parts? read a book in a series, and this is the third book in this series. I actually started reading The Wayward Children in July, so I have read the first 2 books in July, and I am hoping to read the rest of the series as well because I really enjoy it. I didn't read any more books for the readathon, but I did get around to read some stuff for work. So I have 2 more books for August, and they were work related. So the first one was Søstre by Mariangela Di Fiore, and it's a book about Utøya, and it's a book about one of the survivors after the terror attacks at Utøya 10 years ago. Would I recommend it? Yes, I actually would. The book is written by Mariangela Di Fiore, but the story is told through Katrine Trønnes Lie's eyes. Katrine Trønnes Lie was a pretty regular 17-year-old when this story starts. It's July 2011, and she has managed to persuade her sister Elizabeth to come along to the Workers' Youth League, the Labour Party's youth group, to the yearly summer camp at Utøya. Utøya is a small island in the Tyrifjord, less than an hour's drive from Oslo. 22nd of July 2011, there was a terror attack at Utøya, and 69 people died after the shooting. I will link to an article where you can read more about the terror attacks on the 22nd of July 2011 in the description box. Katrine wasn't really into politics, but in the Workers' Youth League she felt friendship and companionship, and for her that was what Utøya was all about. The book has 4 main parts, including before, at, and after. The terror attack is, like the rest of the book, described through Catherine's eyes. We also get to see how the attack affects her life in the 10 years following the event itself. Even though the language in the book is very accessible, it is not an easy read emotionally. To be honest, it made me tear up more than once. Also, please read the trigger warnings in the description box for this book. My final read for August is also a work-related read. I actually have a Norwegian translation of this book, but I actually ended up reading it in Swedish translation. So it is translated from the Finnish to the Swedish by Janina Orlov, and it's Baby Jane by Sophie Oksanen. Sophie Oksanen, as far as I know, has had a few books published into English, but Baby Jane is not one of them. I think it's her debut, but I'm not completely sure. I have previously read another book by her. It's called Purge in English. This is not anything like that at all. If you read Purge, this is quite different. And this is about a woman who is in a relationship with another woman. They're both struggling with mental health issues, and to make ends meet, they actually kind of have a business that is like for adult stuff. It doesn't really go as well as I hope, and I think they actually are affected more than they kind of actually say out properly in this book, but it's just the way it is. And there's a lot of mental health stuff about being close to someone with mental health issues, and they don't let you know completely how awful it is or how bad the situation really is. It was really, really good read, and I really liked it, and I will talk about this at work soon. So that was my reads for August. Only 5 books this time around. It's not bad, but I had hoped, since my first week of the month was my holidays, I had hoped to read more, but 5 books, not bad. I guess that's what we have for this time. I don't know when I will make a new video. I will make a video at some point, and I don't know when, and I don't know what it will be about, but until then, I will see you in the next video. Bye!